揽投资国内专业的互联网理财平台，收益超银行活期数倍，已为众多用户带来丰厚收益。揽投资理财新选择。
在前不久召开的财经纽约峰会上，美国时代金融财团董事局主席格林伯格做客财新时间，接受了财经传媒总编辑胡舒立和财经智库首席经济学家何帆的联合访问。已经年届90高龄的格林伯格是美国商界的一个传奇人物。他曾经呢是一名军人，在2战的时候参与过诺曼底的登陆作战和朝鲜战争，获得过铜星勋章。上世纪50、60年代的时候，他投身保险业，加入 AIG， 也就是美国国际集团。凭借着在战场上锻炼的钢铁般的坚韧意志和卓越的领导能力，他很快便受到财团高层的赏识，青云直上。
1967年，时年42岁的格林伯格接替公司创始人斯塔尔，成为首席执行官。在随后执掌公司的37年里，他带领 AIG 从一家不为人知的小公司，逐步发展成为遍及130个国家和地区，拥有9万余名员工，资产高达1000亿美元的世界第3大跨国金融保险集团。尽管在2005年，他因 AIG 集团的财务丑闻被迫离开了他一手缔造的商业帝国，但这并不影响他在几十年间里为自己在金融保险行业确立的教父地位。在离开 AIG 之后，格林伯格又重组了时代金融财团，出任董事局主席，继续坚守他一生钟爱的保险事业。
What's your early experience was in the army? So how did it influence you or help you for your future career? You think?
Oh, that's a long and personal question. I enlisted in the Army when I was 17 years old. I lied my age. I was bored in high school. And I served in Europe from Normandy through linking up with the Russians in Linz, Austria. When I was 19, I was commissioned in the field commission. I came back out of the Army, had to finish high school, which was a very difficult year and a half. Let me tell you, it was after being in a war and going back to high school. I don't envy anybody having to do that, but I did. I went on to college and law school. When I finished law school, almost on a day, the Korean War broke out, and I had stayed in the reserves because I needed the money when I was going to school. And I was recalled about 2 months after the Korean War broke out. I was recalled. They needed field officers. I found myself on an airplane going to Korea. I spent about 14 months in the coldest winter I've ever spent in my life. I commanded a company. I was a captain when I came back. But you learn something about leadership. I learned that you never ask anybody, I wouldn't, to do what you wouldn't do. Not everybody feels that way about it. I run my life that way and have since the Army. I don't ask any of my employees to do anything that I wouldn't do. I work long hours. I have a briefcase almost every night. I don't finish till about 11 o'clock. That's been my life since I went to work for Star and ran AIG. But that's me. I mean, I couldn't be doing anything different no matter where I work. You either give it your soul and complete attention, or you shouldn't do it.
But why, after such a dramatic experience, you chose to be insurance industry? Because of its insurance?
Well, because it's not just insurance, it's investments, it's understanding other countries. We did business in 137 countries. We opened markets around the world that never were opened before. You have to understand the culture of a country. You learn a great deal, and you impart a great deal to the countries in which you operate in. If you don't give something back to the country in which you're doing business, you will never succeed. Long term, you have to give back, not just take out.
Do you see more opportunities in China in insurance industry or in investment area? Which side do you think there's more chance?
The investment area is very important to us. When I entered AIG into China, I first went to China in 1975. We didn't get a license till 1992. Okay? China didn't want to open its market to that. But I knew that ultimately China would become a bigger part of the world community. And it would have to open its market. And I was right, and we got a license. And we brought to China ideas in the insurance field that didn't exist before. And we brought methods of production that didn't exist before. The agency system, for example, which was a traditional way of selling personal insurance, automobile insurance, and homeowner insurance, didn't exist in China. They used to have the employees of an insurance company solicit. When we went into China and introduced the agency system, the insurance industry then in China adopted that process and became very competitive. But anyway, I leave AIG, and the Star companies, which was warehouse, I brought out of the warehouse, and we're growing it quite well. And I happened to be in China and met then with the mayor of Shanghai. And he said, look, we have an insurance company in Shanghai that's been in existence for 15 years and never made a profit. So why don't you buy 20% and you run the company, your people? Well, I was a little naive in thinking that it still would be an SOE and you didn't have the freedom to do the things that you'd like to do. And we tried, and we worked at it for a year and a half. I went back and said, look, either you sell me control or you buy it back. And we got control, and we're making a lot of changes. The automobile insurance business in China is the largest part of the insurance industry, the non-life side. The expense ratio in China for most of the industry is about in the mid-40s. Okay? Mid-40s. The expense ratio that I had in AIG was 21%. The expense ratio of the Star companies is 21%. We couldn't make money at 44%, whatever, an automobile business in China. So we're now out of the automobile business in China. We're doing what we think could be best for China. In the commercial business, many Chinese companies are investing overseas. We know the overseas markets. That's what we did in AIG. And so we're doing that. We're trying to help Chinese companies that are investing around the world. We'll write the insurance for them and help them where it's necessary. And so we're giving something back to China in that regard. We bring technology and knowledge, and we look for new opportunities all the time. and we'll continue to do that. And I'll continue to work on U.S.-China relations, because I think it is the most important relationship in the world today.
当下，美国大选年渐行渐近，美国领导人的更迭是否会给发展与争议并存的中美大国关系带来新的变数？作为中美两国从对抗迈向全面合作的历史见证者，格林伯格曾先后数十次访问中国，也为数任美国总统担任顾问。他对中美关系的发展有着深刻的理解。格林伯格认为，无论是哪位候选人最终胜出，促进中美双边关系发展都是其最重要的任务之一。
Next year will be the election year in the United States.
Yeah.
It'll be a very interesting year.
Well, for many reasons.
And given that the China issue is always very sensitive, so do you think it will be a good timing that for next year when we continue this BIT negotiation and coming up with some issues related with China?
It's very difficult to predict that. We have a Congress currently that is almost in a revolutionary stage, can't agree among themselves. The Republican Party is pretty much split. The Democratic Party is opposed to trade agreements, believing that it affects them adversely. It's going to take a strong leader as president to bring it together. And I'm afraid we're going to have to wait until we get the right president, and I hope that is the forthcoming election. Otherwise, it might be another 8 years before we know, and we'll all be doing something different.
Are you concerned about the outcome of the election?
No, the United States, we've had some very good presidents, and we had, over the history, some poor ones. But that's what democracy is about. We survive the poor ones, and we benefit from the good ones. And you have the right to express your viewpoints, and as a candidate, and if you can sell yourself, fine. We're going through a period here. It seems to me that that a majority of the public that's speaking out now about this are unhappy with the political system, that they believe that the current politicians have failed to deliver what they expected. And as a result, you're seeing that's how Donald Trump gets to be out front in the poll right now. But common sense will take place as people go into the voting booths, and as we get further down in the election process. That doesn't mean we're going to get the best candidate right off the bat. It's uncertain. But I think what we're seeing is that there's a dissatisfaction with the way Washington has been acting. And so time will tell what happens now.
So whether it will be a Democratic president or a Republican president or even President Trump, dealing with China, whomever become the president, dealing with China will be one of the among the top priority for United States. So what will be your suggestion to the new president? Because China and the United States has changed so much in the past 1 or 2 decades. Probably now when U.S. have negotiation with China, it's totally different. It's different to a great extent from the negotiation they have in 1990s when China wants to get access to WTO. So what's your advice to the next president? How are you dealing with a rising China?
Look, to me, China and the United States are two most important countries in the world right now. It's in our national interest and China's national interest that we have a constructive relationship. Just think of this. Because we're living in a world that we don't just have economic problems, we have geopolitical problems. And the geopolitical problems are growing with intensity and concern. I did business in AIG in 137 countries. I know something about the world. it seems to me it's in our national interest and China's national interest to not even debate that topic.
格林伯格一直致力于推动中美经济交往，帮助中国融入世界经济全球化发展的大时局中。他1975年即首次来到封闭的中国寻求合作，在他的不懈努力下，1992年 AIG 集团成为首个获得中国保险营业执照的外国公司。在中国加入 WTO 的过程中，格林伯格也给予了热情的支持。2013年，格林伯格因其积极推动中美经贸合作，获得了武汉荣誉市民的称号。
Since 1975, you led the trend to invest into China. Do you still think China is a good place for international investors, especially American investors?
I can't speak for all American investors. I can only speak for ourselves. We find China a good place to invest. We've been investing since we started going to China in 1975. We continue to do so today. We've had a very good experience in China. I expect us to continue to do that.
You mentioned about the BIT. Why it takes so long time on this issue? Do you think there's any way to accelerate the process?
Which
BIT.
The Bilateral Investment Treaty.
Yeah. The problem is that both sides have a laundry list of areas that they don't want to make subject to that agreement. And I think that what they ought to do is have not just a meeting a couple of times a year. I think there ought to be a group that are appointed in each country to meet on a continuous basis to resolve these issues. It's not going to have, if you wait just to meet twice a year, it may be 10 years before you get halfway done. Have a group appointed by both organizations meeting full time and try and get it resolved. That there's complaints. Yes, labor costs may be higher, and if they are, that's natural. It's happened in other countries as well, and it moves on. Companies will invest where they should, where they get the best return for their investors. Just as China would do the same thing itself. In many countries where China has invested, rates may be, labor costs may go on up, and they'll move to someplace else. The regulatory issue is an issue. It depends upon the industry. Regulation can be very selective. It could be favoring the local companies versus foreign companies. That's not a good idea. If you want to get the best from a foreign company that brings technology, which brings new ideas, then you can't have regulations that harm them from growing in the country. We have regulations here also that apply to both U.S. companies and foreign companies. And if you find the regulation too onerous for your company, then it's something you have to deal with. We have an insurance company in China. I must say that by and large we've been treated pretty fairly.
当下，中国30多年来的经济高速增长已经明显放缓，中国经济正步入新常态。一直密切关注中国经济的格林伯格坦言，中国经济的发展前景依然乐观，但他希望政府能提升对市场的信心，比如不要轻易的介入股市。
I'd like to hear your opinion about China's economy.
In what? In about 5 words? It's a complex economy. There's no question about that. China has come a long ways in a very brief period of time when you think about it. I view when I first went to China compared to where it is today, it's like a miracle that took place. Yet there's much to be done. Nonetheless, it's a growing economy. I think there's great opportunities in China, at least from my perspective and our company's perspective. I'm optimistic about the future of China. Also, China's economy is not independent of the global economy. And as the global economy slows down and has slowed down, that has an impact on the Chinese economy, of course. But that's not unexpected. It's the number 2 economy in the world. and it's the largest population of any country. And so, of course, you're going to have areas that are going to be more hard hit than other areas. But it's come a long ways from where it was when it started. I think that China is an evolving market. It has a lot to learn about to be a market economy. And maybe it won't be a market economy in the sense that we think of a market economy for some time. But so what? It has to fit what it thinks is good for China, not what we think is good for other countries. It has to do what will be best for China and its people. And foreigners have to understand that.
China has an intention of having RMB included in the SDR basket. What is the upside and the downside of this intention for China and for the world?
Of being in
SDR basket.
Look, I think China should be the second largest economy in the world, and their currency should be part of it. I think it's just, there's no question about it in my mind. If it's not, it's political. It's not to do with economic.
The downside rate, downsides any?
Well, I think not being in is a downside. I don't think they should be left out.
Many people worry that China is repeating every major mistake that Japan has made and will fall into the same trap. Your opinion?
I don't think so. I think that China and Japan are much different. Japan has an aging population, but it has the Japanese have not let immigrants from other countries come in, and would be China as the manufacturing arm of Japan. Because Japan is not going to change its culture very easily. I did a lot of business, and we still do business in Japan. And I've been going there for years. Very hard for Japanese to change. And I don't think that they will. And so China has a population of 1,400,000,000 people. It's not in the same league, population-wise, as Japan. So I don't view that as something that can be concerned about.
Okay, I heard that you are not going to China this year, but will go to China next January. Is that right?
Well, I hope to go sooner, but let me be totally candid. About the 1st of August, I somehow contracted this disease, what's that thing from water? Legionnaire's disease. How? I have no idea. And so it kept me from doing very much for them. Instead of going on vacation in August, I was trying to recover from that. I'm fully recovered now. But the doctors say, don't take a long flight for another month or two. So I'm listening to them. But I'm perfectly fine. I'm playing tennis again and doing whatever I have to do. So I'll get there as soon as I can.
Okay, so because then through our interview, my audience will know you more, even this year in China. But also I'm preparing for the next time I interview in Beijing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.